name is Chris Giantsopoulos, as you can see on the screen. If you're wondering about the background of the name Giantsopoulos, that's an easy one. It's from Ireland. It's like this, the far east part of Ireland where they make cheese. Like you just keep going, you don't stop. Okay, I try that joke all the time. Madison's probably sick of hearing it, but sometimes it gets a few smiles, sometimes it doesn't. So I am an advisor and facilitator at Mars. I'm also an entrepreneur in the financial technology space. I've been doing this for a number of years now, and probably taught thousands of entrepreneurs in all kinds of areas, such as business model canvas, lean startup approach, sales, service, anything to do with marketing. And also I'm a pretty expert pitch coach. So I often give people advice on how to pitch and how to frame their pitching. So I'm also an entrepreneur. So I have this, I know what the pain is of the entrepreneur. I know that roller coaster ride, the anxiety we all feel, that sometimes that you feel alone sometimes as an entrepreneur. I'm the only one that's, trying to pull this thing off. And so I understand that very well. So often for me, what you'll get is you get both sides of the fence. You'll get the discipline of an instructor, and you'll get the understanding and empathy of an entrepreneur. And I do this because I just really enjoy, I enjoy giving back some of my experience. When I was younger, I really struggled with a learning disability, and it was just, I didn't really understand how to understand things. It was really very, very difficult for me. So I really appreciated when teachers sat with me and try to teach complex situations very simply. And I just went, wow, is this how it is? I got it. I think, is this how everybody gets it? So it was a great struggle for me, but thankfully pulled out of it, and here we are today. So that's part of my mission as I try to give back a little bit each time. As we go forward, if you have any questions, just unmute your mic and ask the questions. We'll do that. We're going to talk about today this whole idea of customer discovery. And I know from what Madison sent me, I've seen some of your profiles and understand you're at various stages of development. Some of you early stage, some of you are already in sales, some of you are sort of the prototyping stage. So perfectly fine, it's all okay. From my perspective, I just want you to know that customer discovery, I've lived it, I've done it myself. And there's entrepreneurial ventures where I didn't do it. And I'll tell you, it makes life so much easier. It reduces your risk. It aligns you with the market. For those people who haven't had a chance, it's, it's all about matching some secondary research that you might have done about the market, but bringing it into your primary research approach and really interviewing potential customers and really getting an understanding of the problem through their eyes. And one of the most difficult things with entrepreneurs that we have, I'm included, is that we love working on our solutions. Like we just love our solutions. We're like babies, and we should love our solutions. Like we should be there and like, look at this thing. Let me show you. And I don't know about you, but when I was in the middle of my entrepreneurial growth, I've exited my previous business, but financially exited it. But when we were in the middle of that, any place I went, birthday parties, weddings, whatever, anybody who would want to, what do you do? Oh, let me explain to you about it. Let me tell you what I'm working on, right? And it got to a point where people just wouldn't talk to me anymore because they knew all I'd be talking about is my entrepreneurial venture. Close family members like Chris, maybe you want to talk about some other things other than your entrepreneurial venture. It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, maybe I should do that. Maybe that's why everybody's avoiding it. So it sounds like a good idea. But the point is, we all love to talk about it, right? And it's okay. That's without that passion, we wouldn't be where we are. We wouldn't be entrepreneurs. And I think what's important here is, though, I'm going to try to swing you to the other side. And this is a hard swing for some of you. Some of you'll understand it very well. But I'm trying to get you to the side of understanding the problem that your target customer is potentially facing. And if you don't know who your target customer is, then testing with potential target customers to try to understand what the issue is that they're facing. And what's hard about this is, as entrepreneurs, we kind of sit there and go, I know what problem I'm solving. I already know it. I'm solving, in my case, it was a payment problem. In other people's cases, it's I'm solving the problem of people not knowing how to market. I'm solving the problem of robotics and efficiency. I'm solving the problem of, like, I've seen it all, right? I've gone from, robotics to drones, from health technology, heart disease to delivering food, So I've seen all the entrepreneurial ventures, but one of the most difficult things is to get to this point where, okay, my question will be, do you understand the problem that your target customer is facing deep enough? Not just holistically, yeah, they're struggling with this problem. And my question is, do you know what surrounds the core problem? So the core problem you probably all understand, but do you know what surrounds it? What are the issues that surround it? And I'm going to give you, we'll go through a couple of videos here, and we'll give you a perspective on really trying to see what is this thing we're talking about when we talk about what surrounds the core problem. And Chris, why does this matter? So I know what the core problem is, so who cares about the other little problems that the potential target market has? And I'll tell you, it's in understanding those little problems that surround the core issue and understanding the core issue with depth as well, that will give you competitive advantage in the market, right? If you understand your targets and their problems they're facing through their eyes, not through our eyes, not the way we like to describe it, but the way they like to describe it. If you can understand it with that kind of statistical accuracy, then you will have a competitive advantage over any of your competitors. And at the same time, you'll increase the probability of your success, because the goal will be to align ourselves with our target customers. And the better we're aligned, the higher the probability of our success. The worse we're aligned, we get this, a simple example I'll give you on that is, in the days, I don't know if malls are open in Ottawa or not right now, but in the days when you used to go shopping in malls, right? Imagine, do you remember that time when you walk in and whatever store you're walking in, whether it's a technology store, a clothing store, a shoe store, whatever store it is, you walk in and that salesperson sees you and they come right to you and say, hey, how can I help you? Right? And then you're sitting there going, whoa. I'll tell you what we have on sale. Listen, you should come right back here because this is what we have. We're going to show you 60% off all of our stuff. And I'll tell you, I got something that will look perfect on you. And you're sitting there going, whoa, how does that make you feel? Anybody? Tell me, how does that make you feel when that happens?
Overwhelmed.
Descriptor. Huh?
Overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed.
Besieged.
What else?
Besieged.
Besieged. What else?
Pressured.
Pressured, right? Anybody else? Michelle?
Put off.
Put off.
Yeah.
Right?
And out of options, I would say, because it feels like I have to take the lead of that salesperson.
Right. You have to take the lead. You have to now take that lead. Whoa, hang on a second here, man. And you're forced to, you feel a certain way and you're forced to react, right? However you react, you're forced to react. And this is a simple, I use this analogy a lot in our sales programs, but what happens here is it's a fundamental disconnect in them understanding their market. Because what happens is they're doing this. You're coming in, they're coming in, and they're going like, they completely missed what their target customer and how their target customer would like to be sold to, right? And fundamentally, if you're going to sell to somebody, then you have to understand the problem they have, or in this case, why they're coming in. What are they looking for? What would they like to do? Maybe they just want to browse your store because they've never been in there, right? Maybe they're looking for a specific set of boots or a specific kind of technology, right? Maybe they're comparing prices. But if you don't know that, in this case, I'll call this the problem, right? Then you miss the market. Now, you take this to a macro level, that same fundamental difference happens when we're designing our value propositions and our business models. A lot of people think these business models are just like, let's fill in the box. And if we fill in the box, we're fine. Okay, let's just tick the boxes and we're good. If that's your view of the business model, then we got an issue already, right? The business model is a design document. One box interfaces and interacts with another. And we're trying to design it in such a way that we're going to increase the probability of our success. And then we look at that business model, it's based on this one thing. What it's based on, if you notice in the center, is your value proposition, right? So you've done your business model course last week, I think, right? Correct? So your business model is focused on this value proposition. So if it's focused on this value proposition, it's designed around the value proposition, then we better make sure we have the right value proposition that's representative of the target customer. Correct? So if in fact we have the right value proposition, then it should be researched. We shouldn't just kind of say, well, here's my value proposition. And this is another pet peeve of mine. A value proposition isn't just how you describe things. It should be a well-researched approach to understanding your target market and the problem they have and the value that they say that you're giving them. And then you capture that in their words. We start with our words, but we eventually, it becomes an evolution and we come back with their words. And then we think, okay, so the business model is based on the value proposition and it needs to be well-researched. Well then, wait a minute, what's the value proposition based on? And the value proposition is based on one component, the connection between the problem and your target market, sometimes called the problem market fit. And that's why it is core and key. It's a fundamental component to understand the core problems of our customers and what surrounds those problems. So that if we understand that, everything else gets built around a solid understanding and an alignment with our customer, not a misalignment, like in the case when you walk into that store and they accost you. Okay. So any questions on that just theme? I'm going to jump into the session at this point, but any questions on that theme itself? There are people thinking, I believe it, I don't believe it, it makes sense, it doesn't make sense. Chris, I don't know where you got this from, but it's crazy. What are your thoughts?
Well, on my side, I'm going to jump again because I probably am a little bit further down the road. That's an endless road. It's my perception. The thing is that, for example, I myself, I was part of that cohort for a very long time. I was part of my market, and I'm precisely very eager to start using the device myself, what I designed. And knowing that, knowing the expectations, knowing the current market, I found that kind of niche kind of insertion point. And I pushed something and I started to present it to my people, to say it like that. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And some of them, they're very honest. They're very open and very direct. And knowing that, I did the same, and I still do sort a little bit of the same. Well, this morning I fell, but but they know that what I'm proposing is something that will bring value, because
Yes.
I'm presenting something that they have been looking for. They have been settling for the current offering. They don't have time to go to Kickstarter or Indiegogo and wait for something. There are people that are on the go all the time. So it's pretty much like understanding your market, what you want, your needs, putting yourself in the shoes of your own consumer. It's a little bit slippery slope, could be, because you can fall in love with your idea and become deaf to criticism.
That's right. Let me differentiate this. I highly warn against you representing your target market, like you being the user and saying, "Oh, I love this, therefore my target market will use it." That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about actually testing the problem, not the solution right now, not the solution at all. The problem that you are solving with your target market, right? So that's the point of clarity I want to make, and we're going to see this as we go through. So thanks for that, Oscar. So, but that's the focal point, right? We're going to try to go through this process and see if I can swing you over to that problem side. Even if you're in the market already and you haven't done this, I guarantee you the value you get out of it will be incredible. All right. Let's continue. Let me get everything set up here. Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yep, we can.
Good, thank you. I'm moving things around so I can see you all. There we go. Okay, so we'll start off. I'm going to take you through this customer discovery process that we just talked about, understanding the principles of customer discovery and developing a customer discovery research plan, and then think about some segmentations. So, starting off, what we used to think about this concept of our solutions is build this thing and they will come. And some entrepreneurs still have this idea, right? Let's just build it and they'll come. And I love that idea, and I wish it was that simple, but it's not. It's not a build it and they will come scenario. If we build it, we need to make sure we put sales, marketing, operations, customer service, all these elements around this thing, making sure we have the right customer, the right niche, as Oscar was talking about. Traditionally, the approach people use was a waterfall process. It was a long build process with customers being near the end. So it's kind of like, here's my plan. It's going to take 6 months to build. You design, start with A, then go to B, then go to C, then go to D, and kind of the waterfall keeps going. And you get to the end. We now have a product. Now let's go to the market, right? Which is what we're trying to avoid. What we're trying to do is instead of doing that, this is how it usually works out. Go step A, step B, step C, for those of you who are used to designing these IKEA products. Part of the issue is that what happens as entrepreneurs is we make assumptions. And we have to make assumptions. On the one hand, we have to make assumptions because when we make these assumptions, we make them so that we can move forward. We can't just stay stagnant. We have to make assumptions, move forward, make assumptions, move forward. But the worst part about assumptions is, as entrepreneurs, we cannot and should not leave a list of untrailed assumptions behind us, right? Or untested assumptions behind us. And what we need to do here is we need to make sure that as we're making these assumptions, we test them and check to make sure that these assumptions are true or false. So are we aligned with the market? Or are we not aligned with the market? So let's keep testing that. And what happens with bigger companies is a lot of times these bigger companies fall into this situation where they stop testing their assumptions. The senior executive, and usually it's when companies are really doing well. That's the danger point. When you're really doing well, companies start thinking, wow, we already know what our customers are thinking, right? Don't worry about doing any more tests. We get it, and we go on. And as Madison knows, one of my favorite companies to pick on here is BlackBerry, right? BlackBerry, they basically invented, mobile email on a phone. It was like it was their invention. It was incredible. That was a big thing. And they were growing like crazy, except the executives, I don't know if there's any BlackBerry people here because a lot of you from Ottawa, but or ex-BlackBerry, but the executives, made some decisions and they said, we know what the customers want. Don't worry about where the market's going. Don't worry about where the demand is. Don't worry about the big screens. Don't worry about these kind of things. People want what we're giving them. And, they're talking about battery life. They're talking about a different set of features and benefits. But the point was they were right on some of them, but they were wrong on a lot of others because the market was changing. And so what happened? The reason I like talking about it so much is because it's emotional, because I took a big hit on my stock portfolio because of BlackBerry, but I've forgiven them by now. But the point here is even big companies, I'm picking on one, but there's so many that when they lose track of what the customers are telling them and they start making their own assumptions, you start veering off track. And when you're misaligned, you start getting into trouble because sales decreases, because value decreases, because you're not understanding the problem then. You're not clearly understanding what it is, right? So let's look at the startup definition. Right now we're in this startup management phase. And in this startup management phase, what happens in this phase is we're on a search. This is essentially a search phase. This is a keep our learning hats on. Don't pretend we know everything. Of course, we know a lot, but let's keep trying to learn. That's what we're trying to do here. And so what we're trying to do is get to this point where we have a business model that's been tested and works in the market. As much as if we have a product or service, we want a business model that can do that. So if we look at the right side here, this is sort of traditional management. This is growth phase. So when you have a successful business model and you're in the market, like any existing company out there, whether it's Amazon or whether it's any restaurant you go to, or whether it's any place you shop from a retail perspective, or any food you order, they have a business model figured out. They figured out where to get their supplies from. Let's say it's a pizza place. They know where to get their food supplies from. They know who they have to hire and how much it costs to hire these people. They know the expert, they need a pizza maker. They know they need delivery people. They contract out the delivery people potentially to Uber. They have all these different designs in the business model that they figured out, and it all comes to a summary for the customer. And the customer has an interface to that. And that interface to the business model is typically, how do you order? How does it get delivered? How much do you pay? And what are all the different products and services you can get, right? And those are typically the interface to all the behind the scenes stuff. How they collect your money, all these components. So these business models, when they have them working, their next job is to figure out, how do we now make more money, i.e. through maybe different customer segments, different customer targets, or how do we reduce our costs through becoming more efficient, buying our suppliers, going to cheaper suppliers, figuring out ways to make our process more efficient so we can make more. So this traditional management is because it's based on an existing business model, and they're just trying to make it more efficient. Our job as entrepreneurs, we're defining our business model. Some of us already have it, some of us are trying to figure it out. But the idea is to define our business model in such a way that we understand how we're going to go to market. Doesn't mean it's going to work the first time. It means that we've done our research. The idea is the difference between doing our research, both with the customer, with the value proposition, with the business model, doing all the research for beforehand gets us to a higher level of probability than if we don't do all that stuff and we just build our solution. We're like, build it and there will come. And we want to get away from build it and there will come. We want to increase your probability of success based on all the best practices that we know, right? And that's the goal. So that's what we're after. We're after a solid business model that we can get out there into the market and make work, right? So the whole concept here on the search process, we're in this entrepreneurial search phase, is the assumptions that I talked to you about. So we want to continuously do this. And it's important that we get our assumptions out of our head, because when we keep it in our head, they'll stay there and you might not actually figure out what they are, right? So what are our assumptions? Let's test those assumptions. Let's measure them. Let's evaluate whether they're right, whether they're wrong, and let's get either correct it and come up and see what the new set of assumptions are. Does it generate another set of assumptions, or just basically keep going on this track with the potential customer in the center, understanding the customer's at the center of these testing components, right? Because we're constantly thinking about our customer. So if you want to think the kind of energy here, it's like as much energy as you're putting into designing, developing your product, you want to start diverting some of that energy towards understanding and developing the market, right? So there's 3 stages to the search process. One is understanding the customer problem. After we understand the customer problem, we want to get to product solution, right? And then designing our business model. And usually as time progresses, we're typically interacting in parallel with each of these things. They're slowly each getting developed a chunk at a time as we learn more and more as we go further and further away. And that's normal, right? That's okay. We don't have all this stuff fully developed, but we're developing it as we go. We're learning more and more. And as we learn more and more, right, we start building. So the way this process starts in terms of the lean startup approach, we start with a problem interview. And this is, again, this is thinking about what is the problem we're solving for our target customer or our niche target customer. Let's do these direct interviews. Let's understand the patterns that we're finding from these interviews. And then let's see how we can basically take those interviews and pull them into our solution interview, right? So solution interview follows the problem interview in the lean startup approach. And what happens is you might do, the book suggests we do 30 interviews at the minimum, but they ask for 50. So the concept here is, we're going to try to do 30 to 50 interviews to see if we can find some patterns. And this is over a period of time, right? So we're looking for patterns. And then after we finish the problem interview, this is only the problem, not talking about solution. We get the solution and then we say, okay, what are we doing here? Well, this is the solution interview, right? This is the thing we always like to do. Let's show them now the solution and let's see what they think. So after we've done the problem interview, we would have incorporated some of our learnings into the solution, and then we test the solution. Now, if your solution isn't built yet, there's lots of different ways to test it, right? You can, if you might have a minimum viable product, but you could maybe, if it's a physical product, you do a 3D print of it and say, here's what it's going to look like. Here's its usage. You might do an animation of how it's going to work. You might do a video of how it's going to work, right? You might do a 3D rendering of what it's going to look like on site. There's different ways you can create these low impact prototypes, right? And if you create these prototypes, you can use them as potential solution interviews if you don't actually have a solution finished. And then finally, you validate the value proposition and the business model assumptions, and you create the business model. This is the approach that we typically use. And as I said, a lot of times the ideal would be sequential. That's not always possible. Usually we're working in parallel. Any questions to this point?
Yes, I have a question, precisely because, well, our offering is hardware, but also we have SaaS. So when it came into the hardware, we came to a point in which there are certain parts of our proposition that cannot be easily tested in a prototype, because there are certain industrial processes that you cannot carry out in a workshop, in your garage. And sometimes that kind of proposition, the one that we have right now, it's a proposition of waterproofing, something that it's not a casing with. We even have a patent on the manufacturing
Let me
process.
pause you for a second, Oscar.
Yeah.
If I understand your question correctly, you're saying it's not easy to test your prototype in this particular industry. So let me be clear. Let me be clear what I'm talking about. I'm not saying here that you have an actual prototype to test. I'm saying if you have a prototype to test, then you're showing your target market, let me show you how this works and what do you think? Now, if you don't have a prototype that you can test, it's okay. Imagine it's fully built. This is maybe the part that is unclear. Imagine when you're doing the solution interview, even if you don't have it, because this is about a market test. This is about testing with your market. Even if you don't have it, imagine it's fully built. What are all the features and benefits it's going to have? And then show either a video of what that's going to look like, show either, if it's an interface tool, maybe you can create a mock-up of how the interface is going to work on an iPhone or something, or like I said, 3D print. What you're showing here is, this is what it's going to look like, or here's how it's going to work, and here are all the benefits. Now, if you have all these benefits and it works this way, tell me what you think the value is, right? So you're taking it to the fast forwarding, and the idea is we're fast forwarding to completion, but we're trying to get the information from the target customer early, right? But this solution interview is a secondary piece of the puzzle. You don't do this one before you do this one, which is we have to understand what's the problem and the surrounding elements. Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions?
Just kind of segueing a little bit on this part, because I have a tendency of second guessing myself all the time. I precisely do not like to fall in love with my ideas, because I know that at the end of the day, it'll pivot. I will have to pivot. I have pivoted like crazy.
Well, that's okay. Listen, I'm not talking again about you falling in love with your ideas. What I'm saying is, interview the market. Let the market tell you. You don't tell them; they tell you.
Yeah.
Right? Hold on to that thought, and we'll see as we go on. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Could I just have a quick question about the idea level interview? So, one of the problems that I run into many times is that people are just very nice. They're extremely nice. The idea is great.
Boy, you got a tough life, Anand. You got a very tough life.
Yes.
People are always nice to me. Wherever I go, people are nice to me. They give me free donuts.
Crazy about me. Crazy about. I should probably sell myself. Yeah. But the problem is that I want to sell a certain solution, right? And they're so nice. They like the idea. They're all it's great. They're very supportive. I wish I had one saying, no, this is total BS. You should. How do you filter those out, or how do you put the lens in the right?
Good question. So again, I am saying, and what I'll show you as we go on, put a line between these two. Ignore this. Focus on this.
Mhm.
If nobody knows, if the people you're interviewing doesn't know the solution you're working on, which hopefully they're your target market, you're testing with your target market, you're asking them about the problem. So I want to know about the problem you're suffering from. Tell me about the problems. Do you like the solution? That's already assuming that you're solving the problem for them. Tell me about the problems. And as you're telling me about the problems, I start one target customer, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40. And then I start seeing, oh, there's a pattern here. They all have these same top 4 problems. And I'm solving the top 3. This is good. My solution solves the top 3. I haven't talked to them about the solution.
Yeah.
That eliminates the bias, you see?
Yeah,
Okay.
can I just add something there?
Sure. Is it
I feel-
Vancouver?
Yeah, it's me.
Okay, Vancouver.
For Hanan, also, I feel like if you approach people that you know, because I also ran into a similar problems, like if you approach people that you know, then they're always going to be nice to you. They don't want to give you like bad feedback, you know what I mean? So what I did is I started joining random Facebook groups and like LinkedIn groups, and then I would kind of tell them the idea, and then I'll get, you know, like real feedback from them, because they don't know me. So they're not going to try to like, you know, pat me and tell me, oh, it's a great idea. It's a great idea. So like you approach different type of people, and then they give you like different type of feedback.
I love that idea, Vancouver. I love it, except for one thing. You're talking about solutions still in these groups. I want you to talk about the left side, the problems.
Yeah,
But you also talk about the solution, because then you're able to connect with people. You can ask, like, I've been struggling with this. Does anybody have this kind of a problem? And through that, you're able to find your target based on the problem, because
based on the
you're not
problem,
not
yes.
talking about the solution. You're not saying,
Yes.
okay, look, I have this idea. This is the type of product that I have and that I'm creating. What do you guys think about it? You more ask, I'm having this problem. Does anybody have this type of problem? I've been experiencing this and this and this, or I've been trying to get hired here and here, but oh my gosh, why does everybody need to see what my experience is? Or, you know, so you're able to.
Christelle, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for that summary. Okay, let's hold that thought. I'm going to carry on, and then you'll see where I'm trying to take you. Does somebody have their hand up or no? We're okay. Oh, I think Vera, I was looking at you. Vera Platforms. I don't know where your name is there, but you covered up. I do know your name because you're the motorcycle guy, but
Doctor.
Sorry, what was it that you were?
no, I thought you might have been asking a question, but you were going like this.
I was just rubbing my hands evilly
Yeah, I saw that. Okay.
and
All right.
cackling in the background.
No worries. Okay. So here's what we're looking at now. You did your business model lean canvas, right? There's a couple different versions of this canvas. This is called the lean canvas. And in this case, like we said, look at this left side. It's the problem. We're focusing on what the problem is. And the problem might not be one thing. I want you to be very clear about this. You could have a core problem, but there might be a couple of others, right? Customer segment. Who are they that suffering from this problem? So you see, there's a strong connection between these two. And who are the early adopters? This all connects the center component, which is the value proposition. The value proposition, the unique value proposition is key in this case because it connects the problem and the customer segment. If you change the problem, value proposition changes. Change the customer segment, problem changes, value proposition potentially changes, right? So there's a relationship between all of these that I'm about to show you. But again, this isn't trivial. This isn't fill in the box. This is connected through research or the research I'm about to do to validate whether these things on this business model are my assumptions or they're things I know from factual research, right? That's what we're looking to do here. Make sure we create factual research as we're doing this. Okay, so let's look at this customer problem. If we're trying to find out value, right? I often use this golden triangle. This to me is probably one of the most important triangles in entrepreneurship. It's fairly simple, but it's very important. And what's important behind it is it needs to be well researched. If you feel you're confident that you've done the research behind this, then great. If not, we got work to do. And let's do it so that we don't find ourselves, what we're trying to prevent here, by the way, is we're trying to prevent this concept of let's work 6, 9, 12, 2 years, 2.5 years, and then all of a sudden sales is plummeting, or sales is not going well, or it's not going where we should. What's going on? I don't know, right? And the point of the matter is, let's find out early whether sales is going to happen or not for a specific target market through this research. So when we get to use the business model to get to the market, again, our probability is higher. Let's not find this out when we get to the party, right? Let's not find out we got the wrong outfit on when we get to the party. Let's figure out what it says, what the invitation says to wear, and let's prepare ourselves for that, right? So in this case, here's a simple concept of value. We have a solution that solves a very specific problem or job to be done by a very specific target customer, right? So when we apply our solution to the problem or job to be done for this target customer, we give them huge value for which they're willing to pay. We want to be able to say that with researched confidence. And hopefully after you do all the research, you will be able to say that, right? So then you say, okay, if that's the case, well, what does the customer see in value, right? Well, there are two components to value. When it comes to this idea of consumers see emotional benefits and rational benefits when it comes to value. Okay. And the whole idea here is, when you're looking at the problem, it's important to understand the problems they're suffering from. Are there emotional elements to that problem? Or is this just rational? Usually for consumers, it's a combination of both. And with entrepreneurs, what I find is we focus on the rational benefits, but we leave behind the emotional benefits, which are one of the most important drivers in consumer spending a lot of times. Right? So in this case, we want to make sure we have both. So for example, I'm buying insurance for my home. That's the solution, okay? We think about, the solution's insurance. The problem, right, is basically worrying about something going wrong, okay? And the target customer is a homeowner. So we look at this and we say, okay, well, why do I buy insurance? What's the point? Who can tell me some of the rational benefits of insurance? Anybody?
Reimbursement for the things that are in your home.
Yeah, God forbid something happens, we're financially covered. It's rational. We're financially covered, so that takes care of that. That's great, right? I'll take aside the fighting with the insurance company and all that kind of stuff, but we get compensated. Okay, now let's go to the emotional benefit side. What are the emotional benefits of buying insurance?
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Like you sleep better at night. Okay, I got insurance. It's okay. I traveled during the pandemic in June. I went to the Bahamas. I was lucky enough to go. It was a crazy logistical planning trip. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure I did was I bought COVID insurance. And I think I overbought that insurance. I couldn't fly through Canadian Airlines. I had to fly through American. So I had to stop over in an American city and then go to the Bahamas. So I, of course, these are first world problems, but the idea is, here I am, I bought COVID insurance for the US. Then I bought COVID insurance for the Bahamas to make sure. And then I bought the Bahamas packaged insurance. So I was covered. It's like, I must have spent, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars too much for insurance, but the point was, it gave me peace of mind, right? That insurance covering that problem for me gave me this peace of mind. It's like, okay, God forbid something happens, everything's going to be okay. And so that's the combination of emotional and rational benefits. And that can be applied to any consumer situation. Now, when you're selling business to business, how many of you are selling business to business? Hands up. Okay. All right, a good portion of you there. So if you're selling business to business, then there's two major components that are important. And business to business focuses on the rational benefits. So focus is here. So business to business, they're asking you one question when you're selling to them. how much money are you going to help me make if your product or service helps them make more money? Or how much money are you going to help me save? Time or money you're going to help me save in my processes, right? And each of these, of course, is a contribution to the bottom line. So it's like, what's my return on equity? So often in business to business, it's I'm going to invest this money in you, but how long, how many months, 6 months, a year and a half, how long before I get that investment back because of the savings you're promising me or because of the money you're helping me make with your product or service? So on the business to business side, there's different ways to do it. You're reducing risk, you're increasing target market share, you're making the sales process more efficient, you're making the production process more efficient. Like there's so many different ways to do it. You're avoiding regulatory penalties. So all these different ways, there's lots of ways that your solution will do this. But when it boils right down, you're helping them either make more money or save time and money. And the other aspect of that is you could also be helping them with social impact, right? So potentially you might be helping them become more green, help the environment, not have so many CO2 emissions. You might be helping governments take people off the streets as well. Key point here, in a social impact business, you got to still make sure you're making money to survive, right? Okay, so both have to be in play here. But the number one thing is if your solution is helping them become more socially impactful and make more money, that's terrific. Save time and money, be social impactful, terrific. But these are the values that the target customer is looking for when you're business to business. Okay, your job, if you're selling business to business, you have to be able to quantify these savings or these revenue generators. Like, can they save 20 to 60% using your process? Can they make up to 40% more revenues using your process, using your solution? Like, we have to be able to quantify those. You might be able to do it with sort of small, medium, and large size companies you're selling to. Here's how much you can save. Like if it's electricity savings, for a small plant, we can save this much. For a medium plant, we can save this much. For, you can give ranges, but you have to show some kind of quantification. Now, remember, your value proposition is the core basis for later when you're going to do sales, when you're going to do marketing, when you create a marketing positioning statement. This is going to be the core messaging. The value you research here will act as the core messaging for all those other elements, which is why this value proposition, this researched value proposition, is so important. Okay. So again, one of my pet peeves is people think a value proposition is just the way you describe the company. That's one offshoot of it. The core is it's well researched and it's the central piece of your business model design. Okay. Any questions on this golden triangle?
And just a quick one, if I can, about the value proposition for let's say for small business. I'm saying small business because in small business you have one person or a couple of people do it all, so you don't have the procurement department. You don't have all of this. It's just owner that's doing everything. Do you have the emotional aspect when you're selling to a small business? I'm going
to separate the sales process. Take that out.
Yeah.
From the value your solution provides. Small business, large business, doesn't matter. The target customer cares about what's the value you're providing down here, your product or service. That's not an emotional decision, right? Does your product or does it not help me make more money or save time and money, and how much? And how much do I pay for it? And how long will it take me to get my investment back? Okay. That is not an emotional decision. That's a financial calculated decision, whether you're doing everything yourself or whether you're a big corporation, right? So there's no emotion involved in that part of the decision. You as entrepreneurs have to define this for the target customer, right? They don't do that work. You do that work so you can present it to them. Now, the difference is, when you're in the sales process, we're actually trying to sell this thing, you take that value of how much they're going to save and make with you. Now, relationship and trust with you in the sales process counts a lot, which is the emotional side. Do I trust you that you're going to deliver this for me? But that's in the sales process. Outside of the sales process alone, your product or service has to be able to deliver one of these things and quantify it. That's just a simple calculation. I'm going to give you $10,000. You're saying you're going to save me $2,000 a month. That means in 5 months, I get my money back because I've saved. That's a calculation. Simple.
Okay.
Good. Now, do I like you or not? That's another story, right? By the way, Hannah, I like you, just so you know.
Everybody says that.
I know you have that, everywhere you go, everybody likes you. I can't help that.
That's a problem.
Yeah, some people have really tough lives. You realize that, huh? Okay, so any other questions on the triangle? No, we're good. Okay, let's get it on. So once again, I don't know how many times I've said this already. I'm going to say it again so you completely understand it. The whole triangle starts with you understanding the problem market fit, the problem customer service fit, the job the customer's trying to do, and the problem they get into. So in these interviews, we're cutting it here. We're not talking about the solution side. We're only talking about what's the problem you're solving and what's the customer saying about that problem. So that we non-bias anything and we get a sense. I think the problem is payments. Is payments a problem? Customer says, no, payments is not a problem. Being able to afford those payments is a problem. Oh, okay. That's a different problem. I didn't think about that, right? I'm not even telling what the solution is. I'm just asking what's the problem when it comes to payments, right? Well, I can't afford them. Okay, then I think, maybe I can create a solution to break down those payments into 12 easy payments. That might be easy, right? So whatever your technology does, we want to make sure we understand what the core problem is or the job you're doing.
Chris, sorry,
Okay.
can I ask a maybe quick question?
No, there's no quick questions allowed.
It might not be quick.
Can't ask me a quick question. Okay.
Okay. And sorry, I had to step away for 30 seconds, so I'm sorry if I missed this, but what, is the idea say you're in a situation where your user and the person paying for the service are not the same, would you then be in a position where all of this kind of you're doing all of this research and analysis for each group and then trying to find a Venn diagram where everything overlaps to hit everyone's target? So does that make sense?
It does make sense. Great question, Emma, and your thinking is good thinking. So let me tell you this. I don't think I have this breakdown. If I have time, I'll try to bring it in at the end. If just remind me. But the key, what you're talking about here is the value chain. So, for example, I might be selling to a business. Let's just say let's say I'm selling to Winners. Everybody knows Winners. So, but let's say I'm not selling directly to Winners. I'm selling to a manufacturing company who then sells to Winners, who then sells to the end customer, right? So if I'm selling to that manufacturing company is my target customer. But if I'm selling red hats, those red hats, that manufacturing company is business to business. So let me ask all of you, since I'm selling business to business, we're all selling red hats, and we're in this place where we've designed red hats, and we're going to sell them to the manufacturing company, and the manufacturing company is going to sell them because they got the connections to Winners and to other stores, but we're going to say Winners. And so we're selling business to business. If we're selling business to business, where are we on the triangle? What's the value to our target customer?
The rational benefits.
Rational benefits, and which part of rational benefits?
I'd say make more money.
Right. The manufacturing company, what we're saying to them is, hey, buy our red hats and you can make more money, right? If you can manufacture these things, we'll sell you the design, we'll figure out a plan, but we'll take some kind of cut on each thing you sell, but you can make more money. So they're in the business to make more money, right? And we're saying our solution does, our red hats do. So we sell the red hats to them, and lo and behold, they go to Winners, and Winner says, oh, wow, you got red hats? Terrific. I'll buy them from you, right? Now there's a demand, there's value to Winners. So they're actually selling business to business as well. What's the value? What's Winners looking to do? Where are they, since it's business to them?
Make more money.
Make more money. They're still in the same spot. Now we go, Winners sells to consumers, and the consumers just so happens the past 2 months, there's been all kinds of talk about the Princess of Monaco, and then she's all over the place. She's wearing red hats everywhere. And all these consumers are buying red hats. They're in demand. They're in short supply. And so what happens now? Where do the consumers fit in terms of value? Is there a rational benefits for consumers?
It's emotional.
It's emotional, right? They're like, oh, I love the red hats. Look, it's a big thing. Everyone's wearing red hats, and red hats to support a good cause because the Princess of Monaco is supporting cause to help kids. We're all going to wear red hats. And so there's an emotional value to people buying red hats. Now, let me ask you this. That's called a value chain, right? We're selling to manufacturers, selling to winners, right? Who sells to the end customer. All of us, if we're selling business to business, we have a value chain. And some of us, even consumers, we might have a value chain. I'll tell you that in a second. But let's change the scenario now. Let's say we do the red hat thing, we go all the way through, and the consumers are like, red hats. The Princess of Monaco is wearing yellow hats, like yellow hats are in. We don't want, and winners made a mistake. They thought hats are hats, like just buy the red hats and customers will love them. They'll eat it up, even though everyone's buying red hats now because they want to support the cause of helping kids. We're just going to get these yellow hats. Now, what's going to happen? We're in the value chain. All of a sudden, the end customer is not buying yellow hats because there's no emotional benefit. What happens all the way up the chain? Anybody?
People start losing money. Businesses start losing money.
Start losing money in a very simple way. Sales plummet. Sales plummet, right? Sales plummet because our business didn't understand what the end customer was looking for from a value perspective. So we went to the manufacturer who didn't understand what the end customer was, who went to winners who didn't seem to understand what the end customer was going to do. And the end customer said, sorry, thank you. We're looking for red hats, right? And that's why, Emma, to your point, what's important here is that we understand each group in the value chain. So you don't have to do the same number of interviews in each group, but you have to at least interview the person group you're selling to, the user of the particular tool or solution, and if the end user is the same, fine. If not, the end beneficiary. Sometimes the end beneficiary is different. Does everybody understand that example? It's a very important example. So if you're business to business, make sure you understand your value chain. Okay. I just want to say one point, business to consumer. So if you're business to consumer, a simple example here is, let's say McDonald's. McDonald's markets and advertises their value to parents. And then parents bring their kids there, right? Now, do the parents and the kids see the same value? No. Similarly, going back to the business example, each group in the chain sees different value. So when you change the target customer, when you have more than one group in the value chain, you have another triangle. So there's a different triangle for each group in the value chain. Okay. If you're selling to completely different niche groups, each group has a different triangle, right? So in this case for McDonald's, let me ask all of you, what's the value to parents bringing kids to McDonald's? First of all, what's the value to kids? What do they want to do?
They want the toys.
The toys. What's the meal called?
Happy Meal.
A Happy Meal. What kid doesn't want to be happy? What kid doesn't want to be surprised by opening up that little box and, oh yeah, there's the food. Thank you very much. Oh, there's the toy, right? And I was like, well, eat your food. No, I want to play with the toy, right? So the value to the kids is emotional value. There's a little bit of a rational benefit, you would say, sort of the food that they get to eat, but the emotional value is I get the toy, I get to play at McDonald's. Now, that's one triangle with the kids at the top. What's the other triangle? So in this case, McDonald's, parents are paying, kids eat for free, but the value chain is parents, kids on the consumer side, right? So what's the value to the parents?
They don't have to make dinner.
They don't have to make dinner. There's a rational benefit. They get to save time, right? What else?
There's also the emotional.
What is it?
Kids happy.
Keeps the kids happy. What parent
Yeah,
doesn't
but
want to
who
make
cares
their kids,
about that?
Yeah, what parent doesn't want to make their kids happy?
True. It's all about the dinner.
Every parent wants to make the kids happy, right? Don't they? I want to be a hero, man. I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews. I love when I'm their hero, man. Hey, look what I got you. Yay, yeah, hey, thank you so much, right? Of course you want to make them happy. Yeah.
No dishes either.
What's that?
No dishes
Yeah,
either.
rational benefits, again, save more time, no dishes, right? What else? What else about rational or emotional benefits for parents? How about emotional? You get some quality adult talking time because the kids are busy, right?
So
You know,
true.
so I just want to point out here, everyone, that it's important you understand your value chain. So thanks for that question, Emma. And also the when you switch the target customer here, you switch the value, right? Okay. All right. We're spending a bit more time here than I thought, but I don't mind because I want you to make sure you understand it. Any other questions on this? Cool. Emma, does that answer your question? Good.
Yes, thank you.
Perfecto. Okay, let us continue. Now, I'm going to show you a video. And at some point in the video, I'm going to pause it. I'm going to put you in the position of business consultants. And I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, if you've seen this video before, do not answer the question, please. I don't want you to blow the learning point here. All right, here we go. So this is Harvard prof, Clay Christensen. Let me just play this video and see what you think. Full screen on the presentation in order for it to see this particular window. Okay, let's try this again. Can you see the screen now?
Yep. Much better.
Hi, my name's Clay Christensen. I'm a professor at
Did
the
you go
Harvard
higher?
Business
Or is it
School.
okay?
I brought with me a set of puzzles, all related to innovation. We decided that the way we teach marketing is at the core of what makes motivation difficult to achieve. The most helpful way we've thought of it so far is that we actually hire products to do things for us. And understanding what job we have to do in our lives for which we would hire a product is really the key to cracking this problem of motivating customers to buy what we're offering. So I wanted just to tell you a story about a project we did for one of the big fast food restaurants. They were trying to goose up the sales of their milkshakes. They had just studied this problem up the gazoo. They brought in customers who fit the profile of the quintessential milkshake consumer. And they'd give them samples and ask, could you tell us how we can improve our milkshakes so you'd buy more of them? Do you want it chocolatey or cheaper, chunky or chewier? They get very clear feedback. They would then improve the milkshake on those dimensions, and it had no impact on sales or profits whatsoever.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there. Oscar, thanks for sharing that. But so I guess it'll be there, but I don't want anybody to see it further than this point at this point. So everyone, tell me, what's your advice? Let's say you're all consultants, you're business consultants, you come into this scenario and you now are going to give this restaurant advice on how to increase the sales of milkshakes. They invested in milkshake machines, freezers, all this kind of stuff. They're like ready to go, but somehow their sales are not where they need to be. What advice do you give them? What could they do to boost their sales? Give me some ideas. Any ideas?
Maybe, sorry, I was just gonna say, maybe they could focus on like doing like a campaign.
What kind of campaign, Daniel?
Maybe depending on what time of year it is, they can do something targeting kids, cheaper.
Okay,
Like,
so let's say it's Halloween, what would you do?
so if it was Halloween, we could probably do like $3 milkshakes for the whole month.
Okay.
Some type
$3
of-
milkshake. So you'd be drop the price, come on in, $3 milkshakes. We're gonna celebrate. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Or like a giveaway, something like that for that
Sounds
month.
good. Sounds good. Anybody else?
A bundle.
What's that, Oscar?
You can do a bundle. You can
Bundle.
actually say, buy our most popular hamburger, get some fries, and we'll throw in a milkshake, our best milkshake for free for a
Fair
limited
enough.
time.
Good. Okay, yeah. So promote it that way. Milkshake for free, milkshake for half price. That sounds good. Okay. Bundle. So that's another idea. Who else has some ideas here? Alina?
Get 9 and you can get 1 for free. It's just
Buy-
like tracking.
Buy one, get one free?
Yes, and similar, like if you got 9,
Oh, like Tim Hortons.
yeah, exactly.
Clip the coupons. As soon as you buy 9, you get one for free. Okay, good. So buy a certain number, get one for free. That's good. I like that. What else? Anybody else?
Make it healthy, or at least say it has no bad chemicals, just
Sure.
good ingredients. It's healthy for you.
Sounds
or
good. Make it healthy. That sounds like a good idea. Michelle?
Make it exciting, like seasonal, like candy cane ones at Christmas and pumpkin
Yeah.
ones at
Oh,
Halloween.
yeah. Pumpkin flavor for Halloween and candy cane for
Yeah,
Christmas. Like
yeah,
really
make it fun.
connect. I love that idea. That's a great marketing ploy. Connect to the season. Yes, of course. Yeah. Like we said, that October one. Sounds good. 2 more. I'll take 2 more. Who's got something? Come on,
Is
man.
it
These
the
guys are paying us
milkshake?
big money.
Is it the milkshake just a solution?
It is, but I'm curious what you would do to help sell it.
Ask the question of what's wrong with our milkshakes, not how can you buy more?
Oh, you would ask what's wrong with our milkshakes? Oh, I love our milkshakes. You're gonna ask what's wrong with them? What's wrong with our milkshakes? Okay. Sounds good, Sheriff. What's wrong with the milkshakes? Yeah. So you would ask some questions.
Hire a celebrity,
Hire a
like
celebrity.
hire a celebrity to promote it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Get a celebrity endorsement. Get an influencer. Sounds good. Who should we get?
I would say bring a friend and get half off.
Bring a friend, get half off. All good stuff. All good stuff. And Sheriff, I like your answer. We're going to explore it a little bit more in a second. So this is all good. Let's continue and see what the rest of the story looks like.
So one of our colleagues went in with a different question on his mind, and that was, I wonder what job arises in people's lives that cause them to come to this restaurant to hire a milkshake. So we stood in a restaurant for 18 hours one day and just took very careful data. What time did they buy these milkshakes? What were they wearing? Were they alone? Did they buy other food with it? Did they eat it in the restaurant or drive off with it? It turned out that nearly half of the milkshakes were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. The people who bought them were always alone. It was the only thing they bought, and they all got in the car and drove off with it. So to figure out what job they were trying to hire it to do, we came back the next day and stood outside the restaurant so we could confront these folks as they left, milkshake in hand. And in language that they could understand, we essentially asked, "Excuse me, please, but I got to sort this puzzle out. What job were you trying to do for yourself that caused you to come here and hire that milkshake?" And they'd struggle to answer, so we'd then help them by asking other questions like, well, think about the last time you were in the same situation, needing to get the same job done, but you didn't come here to hire a milkshake. What did you hire? And then as we put all of their answers together, it became clear that they all had the same job to do in the morning, and that is they had a long and boring drive to work. And they just needed something to do while they drove to keep the commute interesting. One hand had to be on the wheel, but somebody had given them another hand and there wasn't anything in it. And they just needed something to do while they drove. They weren't hungry yet, but they knew they'd be hungry by 10 o'clock. So they also wanted something that would just go down there and stay for their morning. Good question. What do I hire when I do this job? You know, I've never framed the question that way before, but last Friday I hired a banana to do the job. Take my word for it, never hire bananas. They're gone in 3 minutes, you're hungry by 7:30. If you promise not to tell my wife, I'd probably hire donuts twice a week, but they don't do it well either. They're gone fast, they crumb all over my clothes, they get my fingers gooey. Sometimes I hire bagels, but as you know, they're so dry and tasteless. Then I have to steer the car with my knees while I'm putting jam on them, and then if the phone rings, we got a crisis. I remember I hired a Snickers bar once, but I felt so guilty I've never hired Snickers again. Let me tell you, when I come here and hire this milkshake, it is so viscous that it easily takes me 20 minutes to suck it up that thin little straw. Who cares what the ingredients are? I don't. All I know is I'm full all morning and it fits right here in my cup holder. Well, it turns out that the milkshake does the job better than any of the competitors, which in the customers' minds are not Burger King milkshakes, but it's bananas, donuts, bagels, Snickers bars, coffee, and so on. But I hope you can see how, if you understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious.
How do you like that? just obvious. Okay, so let me ask you a question. When we think about the triangle, okay, where did most of the suggestions come from? What side of the triangle were you trying to impact? We got target customer, problem, solution. When we had a lot of the suggestions, where were you going?
I think our proposals were mostly on the rational and monetary
No.
save money.
They actually, I can't even determine the value, actually.
They
You're
were all
talking about value,
solutions.
yeah, they were on the solution side, right? So you see, I don't know, I can't tell what the value, the ideas you were providing, right? They were on the solution side, but I don't know what the value is. You know why I don't know what the value is? Who can give me that answer? Sheriff. Why is it I don't know what the value is? You give me solutions. Let's make it seasonal. And these are great marketing solutions, by the way. I won't take them away from the marketing, but there's a missing piece of the puzzle. So you're giving me, what's that?
The problem is missing. What exactly?
Right, we
is the
don't
problem?
understand what problem we're trying to solve. We're just trying to say, let's do this with a solution. Let's give it a different flavor. Let's make it a monthly thing. Let's add everywhere Skittles, or let's make different flavors. Let's add, let's do protein shakes and these kind of things. All these things are like, they're great solutions, but we can't answer them. We can't know what the value is because we don't know if the target customer has these problems. So we're sort of playing on a side where it's fun to create, like I said, entrepreneurs, we love this side. We love playing on the solution side, but we don't know what the problem is. Now, let's go to what the problem is. Well, first of all, how many people would have thought 50% of the milkshakes would be before 8 a.m. in the morning? Who would have thought that? No way. Are you kidding me? Before 8 a.m.? We wouldn't have thought that, but look, the stats, the research is showing us before 8 a.m. Then we say, okay, let's figure this day in the life of the customer. Remember, every customer intersects our problem in a very small part of their lives, right? In a very smart part of their lives. So we're trying to solve this, and our entrepreneurial idea is this, our solution is this, our whole lives are a big part of our lives, but the problem and the customer intersection of that problem is a very small part. They have jobs to do, they have kids, families, boyfriends, girlfriends, right? They have hobbies. So when they intersect with our problem, it's this very small part. That's the day in the life of the customer as it intersects our problem. So in this intersection point, is the customer coming from a point where they have lots of time, where they're like, oh, it's the morning, I fed my kids, I take them to school, I sat down, I had a 1-hour breakfast, I had my coffee, I'm now relaxed and I'm driving to work and I'm bored. Is that where they're coming from?
No.
Where are they more than likely coming from?
They're coming from convenience, speed. That's
Oscar,
why
I want to know, but take me back to their house. Take me to the day in the life. Track this. This is important.
Well,
where do you think they're coming from their house?
You have 3 kids, or you have a couple of kids. One, they're in elementary school. So you are asking them, did you brush your teeth? Where is your lunchbox? Where is your backpack? Is your homework inside? Did your dad put this into the dryer? Did you, or where's your mom? Where are the keys of the car?
So Oscar, let me ask you this. Do you have lots of time, or are you pressured for time?
You're pressured for time.
Pressured for time.
And since people are becoming stressed, at least there was a very important section here from milkshake to smoothies. That's where a lot of people, they started to make these smoothies because they are.
That's good. That's good. Before we go to solution, I don't want to go to solution again. Talking about the problem. See, this is where it's hard not to go to solution. Stick to the problem. The problem is they woke up, they're rushed, they're getting the kids ready. The coffee, let me get a gulp of coffee. We're already 10 minutes late. Let me drive into school. And finally, you're on the way to work. Oh, I'm on the way to work. Oh my goodness, I didn't even eat anything. I had one bite of toast.
Yes.
Right? That's the day in the life of the customer. Now, 8 a.m. they come, they go, oh wow, I can drive right into here, get a milkshake. What can I get at a burger place? Get a milkshake and then drive to work. Now, here's the thing. What's special about driving to work? This is the part of the day in the life of the customer and the job they're trying to do. They're driving to work. What does that mean for the milkshake? How do you design the cup?
Yeah,
And-
I think we're missing something out of all this too.
Yes,
And
Michelle?
I think like food also keeps you company.
Yes,
Food is like, it's something to do. So you're listening
Yes.
to music or a podcast, but it's always better when you've got a shake and then you get in this learned behavior and you love to have that while
Yes.
you love to
1 hour
eat
drive.
while so it might not even be, they might have even had breakfast.
potentially, but in this case scenario, I happen to know it's a rush scenario, but they may have, you're right. But you're right, this part's important. You got a 1 hour drive to work. Your point is very
Yeah.
important. I want something to do for that 1 hour. Food is a good thing to keep me company. A milkshake will last. So now let's think about the design of the milkshake. What about the cup holder in the milkshake? Can we make the milkshake monstrous so it doesn't fit in the cup holder?
No,
No. Why?
because it's the opposite of what they want.
Right, because we now know the driving to work, it's got to fit there. Now, to Michelle's point, do we make it very thin milkshake or do we make a very thick milkshake? Michelle?
Thick, because you want it to last.
Right, you want it to last all the way to work,
Mhm.
right? Now, do we make, what about the cup? Is, the cup's cold, maybe it's going to drip, condensation. What do we want to do with the cup?
Needs to be properly insulated and
Insulated cup.
recyclable.
So maybe we can sell something that's like a, hey, reusable cup for $4.99, up it, right? And it's an insulated cup, yeah? So what about the straw? Right?
You'd
Thick
need-
straw, thin straw,
Small,
Thick straw
thin.
for thick straw for the thick smoothie.
thick
It
straw.
can't
for the
be
thick smoothie.
a sippable
Right,
because you're on the go and you need to look at the road.
exactly, right. So listen to all the solutions you're coming up with now compared to before. Now, let me ask you again, what about the flavors? Before 8 a.m., what do we do?
Chocolate,
Chocolate's always a good one. I like chocolate. What else?
Straightforward
Strawberry.
flavors.
Strawberry, vanilla.
Strawberry, vanilla. Okay, these are all good. What else?
Banana.
Banana. Oh, a nice banana
They
shake. in the
tried a
morning.
banana as
Yeah.
an alternative.
What else?
Coffee?
Coffee flavor. Oh yeah. Hey, have a coffee flavor. It's before 8 a.m. Perfect. What else?
Straightforward flavors.
How about healthy flavors? Give me some healthy flavors.
mango.
Mango,
Apple.
apple, protein. How about a protein shake?
Well,
Protein
that-
milkshake.
Less hungry later on because that would fulfill their need.
Yes, protein shake. How about a green energy shake? Right.
Yeah.
So what the
Smoothie.
point? Okay, smoothies. Let's go into the smoothie business. Okay, I'm gonna
Green money
pause.
made it nasty.
I want you to think about this for a second now. Look at the amazing solutions you're coming up with. Because we now understand not just the core problem, I'm hungry, but everything that surrounds the problem, which is the day in the life of this customer intersecting the problem. We've tracked the customer in their journey from leaving their house to being hungry to coming in here, right? To having to drive to work. We all have all these, now we have different considerations that were not, I'm telling you, not part of the core problem. Because at the beginning, you're giving me these solutions that says different flavors, different sizes, 2 for 1, free, but it wasn't part of the core problem. So there's no value to that. Now, all of a sudden, because we have the research around the problem, the subtleties of the problem, and the customer intersection, the day in the life of the customer as it intersects our problem that we're solving, all of a sudden, you've got amazing designs for the milkshake, the cup, the straw, the flavors. And now, what happens to the value? Since we've answered the problems, what happens to value? Skyrockets. It's formulaic. When you understand the problem and your solution answers all the issues, all the elements of the problem, then value skyrockets and you get ahead of your competition, sales increases, everything increases.
Could I ask a quick question about this particular
Again with a quick
case?
question. We can't ask quick questions anymore.
Okay, so I'll make it extra slow.
Okay.
It seems like in this particular case, the problem was not immediately obvious
Right.
to the consumers as well. But they had a context. They were caught just right 5 minutes after they purchased the milkshake on the way to their car. They were in the middle of solving something they didn't know about. a similar, how do you approach a customer which is not in the process of solving a problem at that very moment? They don't know they have something, but it is some process that they do, but they don't even aware of it, because it sounded like people were not aware that that's what they were doing. Now
Well,
they
you have to ask,
understand.
they asked the question though. They said,
Yeah.
you know, what, so tell me, why did you come here? I came here because, right? What were you trying to do? I wanted to buy a milkshake because I was hungry. Why hungry? I got an hour drive to work. Everybody said, got an hour drive to work, got an hour drive to work, got an hour drive to work. I was hungry, I was hungry, I was hungry.
Yeah,
I
so
rushed,
it's-
I rushed, I rushed, I rushed, right? They just asked the questions. And asking the questions directly to the target customer, primary interviewing, where you get that feedback. Remember, they didn't say, you know, they didn't say, what kind of milkshake do you like?
No.
Do you like chocolate, strawberry? What kind of size do you like? They didn't talk solution. They talked problem. What problem were you trying to solve? What job were you trying to do? Right? Why did you come in here? Those are the questions they were asking. They weren't talking about the milkshake. You follow?
Yep, yep, yep. It's great. Really helpful. Thanks.
Good. That was a quick answer. When you ask me a quick question, I give you a quick answer. Anybody else? We're good? So I really want you to remember this milkshake example, everyone, because this is the thing that takes you from solution to problem, solution to problem, solution to problem. This makes sure you truly understand your customer and the day in the life and the elements that they're suffering from, right? Let me check drinking, you know. So I'm going to take you to this day in the life scenario, right? This is a way to capture what we just talked about in the milkshake example. It's a structured way to capture sort of the scenario and what happens. And the idea here is we're capturing this information, so we put our assumptions on the table in terms of what we know, or maybe we've got some research we've already done. Whatever we have, we put them on the table so we can see what this picture looks like. But this day in the life is scenario, it's often used in marketing, but we're using it here for the value proposition and to be a precursor to the questions we're going to ask. The goal here is that we want to capture what we currently know. So what we do is we capture the target customer in the situation, the objectives and the job of our target customer to do, the problem and obstacles, and the economic impact of that problem and obstacles. Okay. Now you see there's nothing here to do with solution. So I'm not talking about your solution. You imagine your solution is not here. Just the only part of your solution I want is the problem it's solving. Right? So this is how we capture it. So let me give you an example. In this scenario, we have a solution that's like an iPad style solution that has all the repair data in it for specific airplanes, for airplane mechanics. That's my solution, right? But I'm assuming that solution doesn't exist. So I want to get a sense of what the actual problem is and the day in the life of a particular customer that this solution is going to be helping. So in this case, what I'm saying is, I'm starting with who are they? And I want you to name them based on statistics, right? So like if I do some, let's say I do some research and I found that most teachers from K to 8 are female, then I would give them a female name. If I find out it's equal 50-50, male, female, I give them both. I give them each, talk about one of each. In the aircraft business, it's mostly male mechanics. I use Ernie, right? The idea here is not sexist or not sexist, it's statistically based. We're just trying to figure out from our target market, what are most of the people like? Because we're trying to hit most of our target market. We're never gonna hit all of it, but we're trying to hit a lion's share of our target market, right? So in this case, you would describe Ernie, aircraft mechanic. You do a lot more descriptions here. Is Ernie a family man? Has he been in the business for 20 years or 2 years? Like, are most people like Ernie newbies? And this is again, most people based on research. Is he a dedicated family guy? Is he a dedicated company guy? Does he want to stay here for life? Does he want to switch to another job? Does he want to get a management position? Right? Based on statistics, what's the full picture of Ernie that you can give me? Which is at the triangle, the top end, the target market, right? So give me a full picture of what they are. Then you look at the situation and desired outcome. So what is the situation? Kind of like the day in the life. What situation does Ernie find himself in? Think about the milkshake example. It's driving to work. It's putting the kids away. It's doing all that kind of stuff, right? And being hungry. So here, Ernie's working on a Boeing aircraft. He's attempting to diagnose a problem he's never encountered before. He's under pressure to address the problem quickly so the flight will not be delayed without compromising safety. So that's the job he's trying to get done. Now, as he's trying to get this job done, what are the problems he comes into? Again, without our solutions, right? Well, it's impractical for Ernie to carry around up-to-date manuals for every model of aircraft he works on. So he's got these situations where there's printed manuals back at the office. There's online. You got to get onto the online computer. You can't carry the computer outdoors because it's too rough. So indoors, you got to go and just kind of check the computer Wi-Fi wise. And then there's these latest bulletins that come in that are print-based. So there's all this stuff that's coming in, and there's just too much. It's impractical for him to carry all this stuff out there. And then what he needs to do is he needs to make time-consuming phone calls to find the relevant information. So he has to either call one of his mechanics, and if he does, then what happens is that mechanic is working on a problem, right? They diminish, all this stuff happens, right? So all of a sudden their productivity goes down, Ernie's productivity goes down, stress all around, aircraft's trying to take off. All right, we know that, so we get the scenario. Now what happens here? This results in the flight being canceled and the airline losing money. Also, Ernie becoming stressed and less productive and more prone to mistakes. So in this case, as we're trying to figure this out, we see there's an impact to the airline, right? They could lose money as Ernie delays. There's an impact to their brand. All the customers are like, I'm not flying Air Canada again. Hope I didn't say that on a recording, but yeah. And then also Ernie becomes stressed and less productive and more prone to mistakes. So productivity goes down further. It's a poor employee experience. And here's where we're at, right? So this is the way you capture the day in the life scenario, okay? What I'd like to do is I'd like to get you to take a couple of minutes. Let me just see what time I got here. Just trying to see if I can make this a 45. Bear with me, guys, just for 1 second. Just gonna a bit of a time check. Skip solution. Yeah, okay, we can do it. Okay, now I'm going to put you in a breakout rooms. And what I want you to do in these breakout rooms is I want you to describe, right, the customer and the day in the life of the customer of your particular problem you're solving. Okay? I don't want you to talk about the solution. I want you to say, here's my ideal customer. Let me describe them. Here's what they're like. Here's who they are. Here's the situation and desired outcome. Okay? And here are the problems as they're trying to deal with this particular situation, the job to be done. And here's the economic, social, or ecological consequences as a result, whether it's to them, the company, whoever. Think about your value chains, right? So we're talking about here the user of your solution, and then we're talking about the impact to all the other areas that are potentially on your value chain. For example, if parents don't take kids to McDonald's, the impact could be screaming, yelling kids, take a long time to get into bed, stress on both sides, like those kind of things, right? Yeah. So everybody clear on what we're going to do? I'm not sure if I can put this in the, let me just try this, see what happens if I put it in the chat. Come on. Okay, did not work. You don't see anything in the chat, I don't think, right? Okay, I'm going to do it like this. I'll have to do it one by one. Okay, that's part one. And there's problems. So as you're doing this, again, I want you to think about that whole day in the life in the milkshake, if you're not sure how to describe this, but I'm giving you these examples so you'll have this in Ernie's case. And I want you to describe this right now based on what you know today. You might learn more tomorrow and over the next few months as you do the interviews, but from all the research you have so far and what you know so far, I want you to answer these questions. Okay, this is, everybody see that in their text right now? Okay, cool. So this is not going to be a long exercise. I just want you to be able to describe it. So we're not getting into the big solution here or anything like that, right? Here's the problem I'm solving, everyone. I'm solving this problem, and now let me describe it. Here's my target customer. Here's the job they're trying to get done, and some of the struggles they have. Here are the problems they have as a result of those struggles. And finally, here's the economic consequences. Okay. Actually, did I get? Okay, I didn't add the first thing is Ernie, right? Of course, your target customer. So let's make sure we put that in. Ideal customer name them. Let's not forget that. This is actually number one. Okay. Customer, name them and describe them, right? Okay. Everybody cool in the homework? And what I want everybody else to do is make sure the person making the description does not talk about solution. Right? If somebody talks about solution, I want you to go, solution, that's not right. It might be a little aggravating, but try to do it anyway. The point is, I want you to just help the person flesh out just the problem side. Okay. Okay. So many rooms we can create here. Madison, you're going to end up in a room. Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So here's how I'm going to do it. Let's check the time here. I'm going to do a very stringent 7 minutes each. I'll let you know when the next person's time is. So you have. No, I just so you guys, just you all know what I typically do. I go into rooms and I just kind of get a sense of where everybody is. And if the conversation's rich, I like to let it go a little bit more because this is where the big learning happens as well. And I don't want to shortchange you. But listen, terrific conversations, really nice conversations that I heard as we went in here. I'm going to use some people as some examples. So I just want to some really good learnings. I'm going to share a bit. Let's see, Danielle, I'm going to use a bit of your example. Danielle was talking about artists and how, different artists in the music industry and art industry and like all the different types of artists like that, and how they struggle to market themselves and brand themselves, build their brand, right? And as Daniel was describing all the different issues, what I suggested to him, and I'm suggesting to everybody, label your problems or number them, the problems that you believe that they have. So it's like, we came up with like number one, they don't have the time to market and brand themselves. 2, they don't have the knowledge to market and brand themselves. 3, they struggle with the tools to market and brand themselves. 4, so when you're trying to capture the problems, number them. The reason why I say number them, make sure they're distinct. So there might be the core problem, then there might be a list. Because why? Because I want you to start asking questions to see if these are the type of problems that come up, or which one of these come up. Do all 4 come up? Do 2 of them come up most of the time? So when you interview 20 people, 30 people, 40 people, 50 people, whatever you interview, are 80% of them saying number 1 and 2 are the big ones, number 3 and 4 are the big ones, all 4 are the big ones? how important, what's the priority of these problems? Why do I care about priorities problems? What does this do? Anybody?
It helps you know which.
Continue, helps you know what?
It helps you know which problem to target.
To focus on, yeah, because once again, the bigger the problem your target market thinks, right? Your target market thinks, the bigger the value you're going to give them when you solve it for them, right? So if you're solving the 4 low priority problems, and meanwhile number 5 is their biggest one, are like, oh, you missed the boat again, right? So we're trying to align, yeah. So that's why it's important to number them so you're clear, they're discrete, and then you're going to start asking questions to see if you get them framed. Another one I'm going to use was Wes, if I can use yours. From Wes's perspective, I forgot the point, Wes, that we were making. Oh yeah, right, market segments. So Wes was suggesting, and Wes, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff. Wes was suggesting that, from his target market, which are potentially government areas, and how information gets out and how they often information doesn't get out consistently because the way it's captured is very inconsistent, and you have turnover of people, and you have different styles and things, and you have research that's missing. And so what happens is the public starts hearing any big companies or big governments, they start hearing misinterpretation of different types of information inconsistent. So what Wes said was, we probably have 84 different potential government markets that we're going after. And for anybody, whenever you have a list, it's okay to have a big list of target market segments, but what you want to do is prioritize them, right? You're not going to, if you're you don't want to kind of go after, not that you're going to do this, Wes, anyway, but you don't want to go after sort of a broad range of markets. I call that spray and pray. You're taking your marketing and sales money, you're spraying it across a whole bunch of markets, and you're praying you're going to get some business somewhere, right? Spray and pray is not a good strategy. Focus and target is a good strategy. 2 to 3 concise target markets. How do you pick those 2 to 3? Again, which one of these, in Wes's case, if misinformation comes out, what type of market segment does it cause the biggest damage? For example, perhaps health information comes out. If it comes out wrong, big damage to brand, to government, right? To people potentially. So you think about where is the problem the worst, and you start categorizing that. And the other elements, there's other elements you want to think about. How easy is it to get to various target market segments? Maybe it's easier to get to a smaller company or smaller government than a bigger one, right? Maybe it's easier to get to a local rather than national, right? So accessibility to these target markets is also a big thing. And how big are these markets? That's another thing, right? So you got to sort of test for these different elements. Let's see, who else was I missing here? I think, oh yeah, Gervin, we were talking about value chain with you in this case. So we're talking about Uber, and in Uber, you have business to business for the driver, but you're talking about sort of an iPad gaming advertising thing in the back for the passenger, right? Entertainment thing. So it's like, in your case, you're helping the driver make more money. We talked about that, but we got to make sure that the passenger sees value, or else if the passenger doesn't see value, then neither is the driver going to see value, right? So we talk about value chain. So for everybody, again, respect your value chain. Make sure you understand the problem at each point of the chain. Okay. And then finally, I think I was going to ask Olivia. I think I was going to ask you to just give a bit of a summary the way you gave me in terms of your framework here, so that in terms of what your problem description was, if you could. And then I was going to just kind of
Sure, just a quick
just the way you gave me. Yeah.
just the overview. Sure, I can
I'm
give
not
that
putting you on
again.
the spot or anything.
Yeah, I kind of start. Yeah, sure, I can give a quick overview.
Okay.
I just kind of started off with, our version of Ernie looks like a CTO who is at a B2B SaaS company, typically 50 to 500 employees. And then when we kind of look at the jobs to be done, I mean, their area of focus is software development and security, but in our case, with more of a focus on security, their responsibilities are to implement the right processes and tooling to make sure that their application is covered. I feel like I might have froze there, but
Nope.
okay, awesome. And then the next
When you say
kind of
their
area
application is
when we're
covered,
touch-
you were, sorry to interrupt, application is covered end to end with what? Did you say covered? What do you mean by covered?
covered, yeah. So end to end, making sure that they know where their risk lies or where their gaps are.
In terms of data
Um,
leakage, right?
And so
Privacy
that's
issues.
kind of the problem that we've seen or heard. Sorry, what
Yeah,
did
we
you
have
say?
it. Sorry, we have a drag. I keep jumping in. I just wanted to just reiterate in terms of
Okay,
like
yeah.
information security, in terms of information, customers' information going across the line into their application, potentially being captured, leakage, that kind of stuff, right? I'm just clarifying. That's all. Okay.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, that's pretty much kind of where I left it and gave an example of a CTO that we've worked with using that same framework. The problem typically is I don't know where my risk is or what kind of gaps I have, and so that's where they look to kind of the tooling to solve that problem. But in this CTO specific use case, their risk is, what if, so he has a software for farming, so it's in agriculture tech, and the risk there is, what if one farm has access to another farm? The unique kind of consequence there is someone could adjust.
Darn, just when it got good, you froze. Okay, so I know the last part of this story, so I'll fill it in as Olivia comes back eventually. So if one farmer has access and changes the temperature in the barn, it could kill all the chickens, like basically kill the farmer's livelihood, right? That's one type of issue versus another type of issue, which would be another SaaS company. Potentially you're signing up for, let's say points card or something like that. And from end to end, somehow your information gets compromised and people get hold of your address, locations, and all the personal information you might have put into the SaaS company card, right? So what we talked about with Olivia was, the market segments here, the market segments, and to look at this concept of where is this issue potentially where it's a big issue, but the tools aren't typically used in the particular industry, right? So it's the tools are underutilized in a particular industry, but it's a big issue, such as potentially the farming one. I don't know which ones, but so what that means is there's huge demand in that potential and not as much competition potentially, right? So that's the area you might want to play in. This is for everybody again, where typically the problem's big, but maybe when you're looking at different industries or different potential target segments, it's not as often, these tools are not as often used. So you can go in there and be one of the, early solution providers. Right? Okay, thanks, Olivia.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay, cool. Elle, are you still there? Elle? Going once, going twice?
Yes,
Thank
I'm
you.
here.
Hold on. Okay, so there was a recommendation that you had a very good description of your target market persona. Could you give that?
Yeah, sure. So I was talking about Jonah, who is 35 years old. She's a mother of two, and she's an executive assistant in a big telecom company. The problem Jonah has is that during summer, she's overwhelmed by all the Christmas fever, shopping fever all around. She's so stressed, and most of the time she's not very sure on how she can effectively plan her shopping, how she can effectively manage or program her shopping plans, because she knows that she has two kids, which she has to satisfy. She has family reunion where she has nephews, nieces waiting to see her gifts, and all having this fever, this Christmas anxiety to see what is the gift of the year.
Perfect. Elle, I'm going to pause you there. It's just an interesting time. Great job though describing. You can see in Elle's description, she's described her persona and she's intersected her into the use cases in the description of where she's getting stressed and worried and concerned. So she's fleshing out what that picture looks like in her description. So the more you can do that, the better understanding you'll have in all of these things, right? Okay. So those are all the lessons on this dead work. Somebody had a question? Or I was just hearing background noise. Okay. Good. So what I want you to do is, part of your homework that I won't be able to check is really flesh out this day in the life scenario. Really like with all the different learnings we just had right now, flesh it out to a point where you really see it, where you can hand it to someone and they go, oh, wow, I get it. I get who the person is. I understand the problem they're having. They're listed here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get it. I see where they're struggling. I see the job they're trying to get done. That makes sense. Okay, I get that. And I see the consequences. Well, and list the consequences as well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even if you don't know the importance level of them. And the reason it's important here that we do all this, because we're going to take this now, when we're going to circle where we think our big assumptions are. What part of this problem do we think we're assuming? Which ones have sort of less assumptions because we have some data behind it? Which ones have more assumptions because we're not exactly sure? Which ones are we interpreting ourselves because we're one of the users and we're thinking, yeah, if I have the problem, everybody must have the problem. Don't make that mistake, right? So let's circle what we think. And we're going to bring this into the interview process. This is actually some of the questions we're going to be asking. So if you remember, just going back here for a second, if you remember what we said about the interview process is there's a customer problem, there's a product solution, there's a business model. So we're going to start in this understanding the customer problem. We already started with a day in the life. Now here is the format for the problem interview. This is the structure that's suggested to use, okay? In this case, what you're wanting to do is you're going to line up some interviews. The goal is going to be, think about who your target customers are, try to get them on the phone, or on the phone. Try to get them, at this point, I guess, virtually, try to get them on Zoom calls, right? If you can meet for a coffee and that's still allowed, by all means do that. The better you can get face-to-face, the better it is. If you can meet in person, terrific. If you can meet on Zoom, terrific. If you have to go on audio but not see their body persona, then do that. But that's the order, in person, Zoom, and on the phone. Do not do, if you're trying to do things like surveys and stuff, that's a separate research. This is not that research, right? Here, we're trying to look at the customer, see their body language, see how they're responding. If you said, how much, what kind of struggles do you have when you're putting your kids to sleep and like, oh my gosh, killing my kids. I can't even talk to you about kids. You want to see that body language. Well, what was that about? Oh, I just struggle every night. I don't know what to do about it, right? So you really want to get the sense of what are the words they are using, their words to you, their descriptions to you, right? So what you want to do here is welcome, set the stage, right? This is after you've booked the interview, tried to get them. Hi, my name is, right? Collect demographics. Collect demographics that are important to you. If your solution is a weight reducing program, maybe you're going to ask for ranges of weight. Are you between this size and this size, this size, this, right? If not, whatever is important in terms of demographics, size of company, how big of a company you manage, if that's important. So think about your demographics, right? Then you're going to set the problem context. As I spoke to you on the phone, or as I emailed you on Facebook, as we talked on Facebook, or as we emailed you, the problem I'm solving is, remember here, we're not talking solution. I'm solving the problem of blank, fill it in, right? That's it, no solution, right? That's what I'm working on. So then we go into, all right, these next two are the important interview sections. You're going to take from your assumptions in the previous work we did, okay? And you're going to ask questions about those assumptions. Now, these are going to be a combination of close-ended and open-ended questions, because your job is to either validate or invalidate the assumptions that you made. Are they true or are they false? Now, what you're not going to do is lead them. It's not like, hey, most people love chocolate. Do you love chocolate? Right? That's like leading the witness. Hey, everybody loves ice cream. I mean, you got to be stupid not to like ice cream. Do you like ice cream? Right? That's like leading the witness, right? Now, you're not going to say stuff like that, but I'm trying to bring levity to the situation. What you want to do is just you ask questions. You're not going to say, hey, do you struggle with privacy and security issues with your app? No. You're going to say, what are the top 3 issues that you have that you struggle with when it comes to your end-to-end solution? Well, number 1 is just performance. Number 2 is privacy and security. And number 3 is just marketing and sales. Okay, let me talk to you about privacy and security, right? So privacy and security, what are the top 3 things you worry about when it comes to privacy and security? What are your top 3 issues? They give you those top 3. And then you dig down. Why is this a big issue? Well, it's a big issue because when we get a leakage of customer data, our brand suffers, people don't want to sign up anymore, people worry, they don't trust us. And on top of that, my job's at stake because I am the privacy and security officer. So you basically go through and start digging. So the idea is you're going to ask a combination of closed-ended questions, which are yes, no type questions, and open-ended questions. Tell me more about, right? But the questions you want to make sure you include are these questions here. So basically the validate or invalidate comes from the work we just did. What are they doing to solve the problem today, right? What's their current solution? What does that tell us if we're asking them what their current solution is, what they're currently doing? Anybody? No. Current solution is your competition. So your competition could be status quo, could be some other thing they're using, could be they're internally what they're doing, right? So what are you currently doing to solve this problem? What are the top 3 issues they have in solving the problem today? So as you're trying to solve this problem, what are the top 3? And then where do you go to find out about solving the problem? What does this one tell you? So when you want to solve this problem, where do you go to find out information about it? Anybody, what does this tell you?
Would that be telling you what your channels are?
Yeah, your marketing channels, right? So it's like, if they go to Google and they, don't just say Google, but where do they search? Or if they go to LinkedIn and they go to LinkedIn groups, or if they go to Facebook groups, or if they go like wherever they go, you want to find out because that's where you want to end up marketing. And remember, we're looking at what most of the people say, right? And then finally, explore customers' view. This one's another important piece. What you want to say here is worldview. It talks about worldview. What it really means is the last time the customer tried to solve this problem, what did they do? So I would ask you, the last time you tried to put your kids to bed, tell me what happened. Right from the beginning, right to the end. Oh, well, we're watching TV. And then, so now well, they're being stimulated by television before they go to sleep. Or they're on their iPads, they're watching YouTube videos. Okay, so then what happens? Then I said, okay, it's 8 o'clock, time to go to bed. Then what happens? Okay, so you basically, in exploring customers' worldview, you take them through the process the last time they basically solve the problem. And as you take them through that process, you're looking for nuggets. You're looking for stuff you didn't know before. For example, there might be something simple. It's like, wow, it doesn't make sense that you're being stimulated by video while you're trying to get people to go to sleep. That causes anxiety. So you learn something there. Next thing is the parent says, okay, shut everything off. Okay, all of a sudden it's a cutoff. That causes anxiety for the kids, right? So you start learning about the process. So these 2 are the most important part of the interview. And then you do ask permission for follow-ups and referrals and document results. The other side here is you constantly should be asking the words why. Like, why does that, somebody might answer a question and say, yeah, my biggest problem is like, I worry that the person I hired for my communication expert, that he or she is not going to collect all the information I need. I really worry about that. I said, why do you worry about that? Well, because I've had experience before where I've had a turnover, somebody else comes in, I assume they're doing the same job as this person, but they're not, their quality was lower, and I almost lost my job because of it. Huh, right? And what were you talking about when you almost lost your job? What was that communication? Oh, it was about the health and safety about our local restaurants. Ah, okay. So you start kind of digging down that type of route to try to really flesh out the problem. So this why is important as you're trying to flesh out what happens here. Okay, so this is the structure. If you want to look it up, it's the problem interview in quotes. It's by Ash Moira. I can never spell that name, but Madison always jumps in and saves me here. But it's Maurya, I think. Right? I'm sure she'll put in the link. But the point here, I'm going to show you a video in a second. But does anybody have any questions on this interviewing approach? No? How many people have already done this before? Hands up. Okay. We got so and we got about 3 people. All right. So for those of you who've done it, did you find it valuable? Did you do it this way, first of all? Did you do the problem interview specifically? Yeah. And it was valuable? Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
It was. I found it really, really valuable because it actually validated many of the assumptions and weeded out others where we would have spent money and resources and energy that would not have added value to a proposition.
Right. Okay. That's good. I'll tell you, when we did this is what a target market, we did it with 200 people. Not that you will, but we did it with 200 people. And we were targeting social organizers who were collecting money on behalf of their friends and family because they organized some activity where they paid with their credit card. And we shut down this company, unfortunately, but it was a credit card to credit card money transfer company. So when you collect it from your friends and family, let's say 10 people owed you $100 each for booking the venue, they would pay directly on the credit card that you use to book the venue. So you don't have to pay down your credit card, they do, right? So anyway, the point is, in this particular case, I was able, because we did these 200 interviews, I was able to find social organizers just as in my social circumstances. Hey, what do you do? You know, do you ever organize activities and events? Yes, I do. Let me tell you, I think there's 3 problems you have that always will stress you out. You mind if I write those down? Sure, write them down, flip it over. Now tell me, what are the 3 big problems you have as a social organizer? Then of course they tell me, right? Problem number 1, finding the time. Problem number 2, chasing people for money. Problem number 3, I hate asking my friends and family for money more than once. And 90% of the time, those 3 would come up. Not because I'm any smarter than anybody else, but because we did these interviews and I knew that market so well. So we actually had a really amazing campaign for that market. Unfortunately, the technology in the back end, we had some, bank API issues and it didn't work out, and COVID, blah, 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 and we shut down. But the point was, it's like, I can tell you, we knew our customer to an incredible depth. And that, I'm still, anytime you have to put down a baby, your heart kind of goes, doo, 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 doo. And what I mean is entrepreneurial baby, not real babies. But since we're being recorded, but when you do that, it's like part of you, right? It's like, oh my goodness, my company. It's like I'm shutting down my company. Really, it's a tough thing to go through. But luckily, I've had a number of successes before that. But the key thing here is when you do it, is learn, move on, right? Can't spend forever on it.
Chris, sorry, not so quick question.
Sure.
So I didn't follow this exact model, but I did try to do a few interviews in the past, and I just found it so hard to not lead people. Like I was totally going after what I wanted to hear. So my solution has been to just find someone to conduct the interviews for me. And then I can I'm trying to find someone right now to conduct the interviews for me so I can kind of distance myself, but then I can still sit in on the interviews or look at their report afterwards. I'm not sure what format, is that the best way to go about it if you don't have the right personality for leaving it open-ended?
Yeah, first of all, good for you for recognizing that. My preference is you to do the interviews. And the reason I ask this is because you're in it, you see it, you hear it firsthand, you get it. Like if you can discipline yourself, if instead of trying to get somebody in there, if you can discipline yourself, and the way to do that is create the questions, right? Test them with your colleagues, either here or with Madison, right? And company, and just test them, make sure they're the right one, and then just stick to them, right? Because I'd rather have you in there asking the questions and feeling the answers and seeing the answers and understanding that first off you're there. Because when you're later present to investors or try to make this out, inherently, like you're standing there and you say, I know this. I already, I've lived this. I didn't see it secondhand. I've seen it firsthand, right? So that's my preference. Now you're absolutely Chris, I'm sorry, you're great, but I just can't do it. then my suggestion is do it together with somebody who's going to ask the question, so you can at least experience it. Right?
I was even leading you there to give me permission to delegate this to someone else.
Yeah, I know. I trust me. I know entrepreneurs like you. It's good. No, good job recognizing that. It's an important thing to recognize in yourself. Okay, let me play this last video. I'm hoping you can hear it actually. You have to tell me what the volume's like.
All right, now that we've got our interview set up, we need to figure out what are we going to ask our customers. This is something that I really struggled with when I started customer development. So that's why we have hack number 3, what to ask.
Okay.
So a couple ground rules for interview. Number 1, no pitching. This is about listening. If you find yourself ever proposing a part of your solution just to get some feedback on it, stop. You're pitching. You don't want to do that. The reason being, as soon as you start pitching, your mind changes gears. It goes from learning and absorbing information into trying to pitch something and sell a product. And this time it's all about learning. This is all about listening to your customer, all about listening to their problems. You'll have plenty of time to pitch. Okay, rule number 2, past and present questions are fantastic. That's what we're going to ask. Questions about the future, like would you ever or will you ever, hypothetical questions, those are no good. We want to ask questions like, have you ever, or tell me about the last time, things that have happened in the past and are in the present. Now, the reason is, if we ask about future questions, we're getting our customers' predictions. And those are basically useless. And in fact, they can be worse than useless, because if they tell us something that we want to hear, would you ever pay $5 for blah, blah, blah? And they say yes, we might mislead ourselves into thinking we have a real product. The truth is they don't know the answer to that question, and it's going to be misleading. So we don't do it. The other reason is, as soon as you're asking would you or will you questions, you're probably starting to pitch a solution. We don't want to do that. Okay, so with those ground rules in place, let's talk about what you ask your customers. The script that I use looks a little something like this. Number 1, tell me a story about the last time problem context. So for example, tell me about the last time you were late to an appointment. Now, the reason why we ask this question first is because it's very open-ended. It's asking for a story, and it's asking our customer to sort of go on whatever tangents they want. What we're looking for here are things that are particularly difficult or annoying for our customer. So your job is to ask this question, listen intently, and then dig in. When you find your customer talk about something that's interesting to you that you don't know about or you don't fully understand, dig in, ask questions. Why was that hard? What was annoying about that? Why is that way? This is where you're going to spend most of your time. Now, if during this conversation, it's not obvious to you what was the hardest part about this context, you're going to ask them explicitly, what was the hardest part about this problem that you ran into? Then they're going to tell you the hardest part. That's exactly what we want. And now this question, number 3, this is golden. It's also very awkward. You're going to ask them, why was that hard? Let me give you an example of why it's going to be awkward. So tell me about the last time you were late. Oh, I had to feed the dog and I had to pick up my keys and I couldn't find them. And then I ran into traffic. What was the hardest part about it? Traffic was so annoying. It was frustrating. And I'm going to ask, why was that hard? And they're going to think, of course, I know why that's hard. It's hard because it was frustrating. And we're going to ask them, and they're going to say, you know why it was hard? Because I had to drive across a bridge and I was afraid I was going to run out of gas. And I was stuck in traffic. And we ask because the why is exactly what we're going to parrot back to our customers when it's time to go pitch our solution. We want to use our customers' own words when we market to them so that we know it will resonate. So in this case, why was it hard? Afraid to run out of gas? We can say, afraid to run out of gas because you're running late. That might be the best marketing. So this is really important. Even if it's awkward to ask, make sure you understand why this was really hard. Number 4, we're going to ask, how do you solve this problem now? So I might ask, how do you solve this lateness problem now? They might say, I just am not late at all. I just don't care. I don't do anything. In that case, we know this isn't a real pain for our customer because they're not trying to solve the problem. If they are trying to solve the problem, I set my clocks forward fast and I try and get reminders from Google and blah, blah, blah. Then we can ask the next question, which is, why is that solution not awesome? They say, oh, you know what? I know the clocks are set fast and I just ignore the reminders. We've got a problem they're trying to solve, so it's a real problem, and their solution is not awesome. So maybe we can solve it in a better way. All right, so this is the outline for your interview. These are the basics. Bonus points, though, if you can do any of these three things. Number one, emotions. Take real note of the emotions your customer expresses during the interview. Frustration, anger, guilt, greed, happiness, whatever it is, note those down, because those emotions, that's how you're going to connect with your customer. When you can empathize with your customer, they can feel that. And that's how we're going to actually move our solution. Number two, 3P. Once you get through this process, you can start all the way over at the beginning. Tell me about another time you were late. If you can get through this process 3 times, you'll learn something new every time, and you'll really understand your customer through it. Finally, 5 whys. If you can ask why 5 times, why was that hard? Why did you do it that way? Why is the world like it is? You will understand the core crux of why someone is doing what they're doing and why it's difficult. If you ask 5 times, you'll get down to the core emotion, the core motivation of what it is that they're trying to solve. All right, so that's my script. And now.
Okay. So any thoughts on that approach? Can everybody still hear me? Does that make sense to all of you? Putting together that first structure and then taking this and overlaying it, trying to get a sense. So again, combination, close-ended, open-ended questions. Don't lead the witness. Don't lead them to your solution, right? Make sure that you're sticking with problem. Don't talk about solution, right? And the goal here is, as you start accumulating interviews, you're looking for patterns, right? You're looking for patterns. And as you see the patterns, you might see, let's say 80% of your interviewees all think the same way, and they all think these are the top 4 problems. Great. You might say, wow, 20% of them think this way. The other 20% think this way. And the other 20% or 40% think this way. Then you might start categorizing them and say, okay, who are these groups? Go back to your demographics. What's different about these groups? Maybe all the males are thinking this way. Maybe all the CFOs of small companies are thinking this way versus the larger companies. Maybe it's the starting teachers that are thinking like this, and the veteran teachers are thinking differently. So you start creating the segments so you can really target and focus your marketing sales approach to their value that they create.
First, could I ask you a question? It's not a quick one. If you have a good recommendation, how to find those target customers? I mean, not target customers, but the audience for the interview, because there's the immediate network. But going back to what I just said in the very beginning, I don't want to speak to people who are nice to me. I want to speak to it's data. How do I find the leads for the interview, and how do I engage with them what's the recommended approach?
Let me ask some people who've done it already. How have you found the leads? How have you found people to interview? Yeah, go ahead. Anybody, just jump in.
You talk to the pain. You try to see a pain where they are. How can I explain this? Because I come from the same court that they come. One of my greatest pains was imprecision or frustration.
But Oscar, how do you find them? Well, I understand the matching pain, but how do you find these people? Where do you go? Social media? Do you call them?
You go to Instagram, for example.
Okay.
You go to Instagram and you dig into the comments.
Okay.
On the postings, the photos. I just did this, for example, my case. I just did this race. These are the pictures of my race, and they normally describe something. They describe I had a very hard race, or I had a wonderful race, or I did a personal record, or I didn't do the way that I did it. And you see the person and you kind of DM them and tell them, oh, that's awesome. Or would you mind elaborating a little bit more? Why did you find this strong?
Okay, so Oscar, you're saying you go to social media and you look for the themes of the kind of problems you're solving, and you try to ask those guys, and potentially some of them might be able to answer the question. Okay, good. Anybody else? Thanks, Oscar. Anyone else? Michelle?
I found what works really well is thinking about who my ideal customer would be, and then reach out to some of the contacts that I already have. So say it's a tech company, and say I've already done work for a tech company, maybe they can, you can find out who their competitors are, who also fits that profile that you set as your ideal customer, and reach out to the people that you know the most.
Okay,
Like,
so you use
you
your
know,
networks basically,
contacts.
Michelle. You're using your
Pardon?
networks. You're using your networks basically. You reach out to your networks and see if there's people in your networks who know other people, and that's who you might get to. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Albie, do you have your hand up? Do you have some suggestions?
I have a question, so I can wait.
Okay, hold the question for a second. Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts of how to get your potential interviewees?
You know, I just hired them. So for me, it was easy. I wanted to interview the Uber drivers, so I took 5 Ubers that week.
Okay, good. Yeah, put yourself in the situation. So that's not bad. So it's like if you have to get into.
I did it all wrong after doing this.
Yeah, that's okay.
I realized I've done it all wrong. Now I see how I should have done it. So I'm gonna have to take 5 more Ubers.
Right? It's an entrepreneurial approach, right? Continue that cycle. So yeah, so that's the case. Like where do you see them? Where do you find your particular target customers? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they business people in LinkedIn groups? Are they on social media somewhere? Is it I want a supermarket manager to go to supermarkets. I want people who will buy food because I want to talk about the food chain. Do I go there? Do I go to restaurants? Like think about where your target market segment congregates, right? Whether it's digitally or in person. Yeah. And then basically the approach you use is, hey, I'm an entrepreneur solving a problem of, and let them know you're working with Invest Ottawa or like some brand, a number of brands that are credible, right? I'm working with Invest Ottawa and I'm solving the problem of, I'm not selling, this is important, not selling anything. I'd just like to ask you as an expert, and this is important, as an expert, I'd like to ask you some questions about this problem that I'm solving, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else? Okay, Abby, your question?
Thanks, Chris. I completely understand the idea of keeping it open-ended, not leading the participants.
Open and close-ended, not leading is different. Open and close-ended questions. So structure your questions, write them out almost in a hierarchy. Yes, no, if they say yes, I'm going to ask this. If they say no, I'm going to ask this.
Gotcha.
Structure that hierarchy. So open and close-ended, just don't lead. That's different, right?
Don't lead, yeah. One thing I have experienced in the past is what I can explain as herding cats, because you talk to people and then they go off in very different directions. So without leading them, because I'm trying to address a specific problem, but it could be, for example, if scheduling is a problem, people could have n number of issues, and then it becomes a part of,
okay, good
like
question.
a herding cat scenario.
I see where you're going, yeah. So what you want to do is you want to give enough context to the problem that you're not like way above where people could pick anything. Like, hey, what's the issue you have with your life? I'm like, what? Okay. No, but then you might want to, you want to give them enough context that it's like, what's the issue you have with your life at home on Zoom all the time, right? That's the problem I'm solving. So you want to give them enough context so they know where they're playing, but not so much that you're leading them. So that leading part might be, what's the problem you're having at Zoom with Zoom every day as you work? And as you try to interact with people, and when you're interacting with people, I can see it's oftentimes difficult and it's a failure. So what are some issues you're having with that? Well, you've already told them it's a failure, or you already told them it's like interact. So you want to get enough context that people know where you're playing, the area that you're playing in, but you don't want to give them so much that you're leading them. And the best way to do that, again, is test the interviews. You're going through this cohort together, right? You all know the rules. Test with each other. Like leverage each other here. It's the best way to do this, right? Leverage each other. Make sense? And like I said, this is all going to be the basis of your marketing and sales later. This work is not wasted. This work is going to be the basis of your marketing and sales strategy as you move down the road, and you'll keep evolving it. It's okay if it evolves. It's okay if you miss the target customer segment or you're in a different place. Like evolution is okay. That's the whole point of this. Let's evolve now where it doesn't cost us lots of money and time later, right? Okay, any final questions before we shut this off? I think we're a minute over already.
I have one more question.
Yep.
When does it make sense to offer compensation for people doing these, like, or what? I think one person told me like $1 per minute was reasonable. Like how do I?
I've never seen anybody pay for this. Like professional marketing companies pay for this, right? But you know, the most I see is, how about if I buy you a coffee?
Okay.
I see stuff like that.
So
right?
it's not unreasonable to not pay $1 a minute.
No, not at all. No, like I said, professional marketing companies do that. They charge, they give you money. We'll pay you this much for, but we're entrepreneurs. You know, we can use our resources and networks to try to get people to do this, right? You don't have to pay for the interviews.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's always a lot of fun doing these sessions. I always tell Madison, I can't wait till we can do this in person because I'm just itching to jump on that train and come to Ottawa. And maybe, you know, Oscar, you're gonna have to fly in or something, but you know, looking forward. Yeah, looking forward to that day. I can't wait, Madison, till you tag me like that and say, hey, Chris, can you come in person? So whenever that can happen, can't wait. I'm trying to help it along as I say this. But I wish you all the best. I've you know, good luck on all your endeavors. Continue to focus. This process works.